So this is the second part of the video on the key features of graphs worksheet. Now we're going to look at the remaining questions that go along with the two graphs that we looked at in the previous video. So we have increasing, decreasing, positive, and negative. And it's important to note that all of these I'm going to name X values for. So you're not really going to be looking at the Y heights for increasing, decreasing, positive, and negative. You're just looking at what's happening with respect to the X values. So I'm going to be looking mainly at the X axis, naming when these different things are happening. And I'm also going to be using parentheses for all of these because with brackets, you were saying that you were including an endpoint, and technically whenever you were doing most of these, especially if they begin and end in certain regions, the parentheses are going to be your safest bet. So increasing, that's our first one here. Increasing is where your line has a positive slope. So that's where your line is going up. Well, this piece of our line is going up continuously. So you want to look at the two X values that piece falls in between. Well, this X value is -1. This X value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we would be increasing from -1 to 5. Now, we switch colors here. I'm going to be looking at where my graph is decreasing. That's where it has a negative slope. So we're going to be looking at this piece. So again, I'm looking at the X values. This X value is -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this X value, as I already stated, was -1. So it is decreasing from -5 to -1. Now, positive and negative. Switch colors again. Positive is where your graph is above the x-axis. So here's my x-axis line. This piece is above the x-axis, and this little piece over here is above the x-axis. So I want to name the x values that happen there. So it looks like I'm between this x value, which I already said was -5, and this x value, which is -3. So it is positive from -5 to -3. And it's also positive over here on this other side. I have this other little piece that is above the x-axis. This is an x value of 4. This is an x value of 5. So it is also positive from 4 to 5. Let's do one more switch. Negative is where it is below the x-axis. So that's going to be this entire piece here. So again, I'm looking at x values. This x value is -3. This x value is +4. So it is negative from -3 to +4. Notice my domain went from -5 to 5. Increasing, you cover the whole run from -5 to 5 here. Positive, you also cover the whole run, because then you're positive, then you jump to negative, and then you jump back up to positive. So you do need to make sure that everything that's in your domain is counted down here, that you don't leave anything out. The only way you would leave something out is if you have a line that actually traces the x-axis. And again, these are not ordered pairs. These are x values. These are x values, so you're going from one x to another x. The only thing left now is rate of change. And I'm going to erase all my marks here so that we can do this rate of change. For rate of change, you are going to draw a line from the x of -3 to the x of +4. So at -3, 1, 2, 3, I'm right here. So you want to go and find -3 and then match up where it is on the graph. And I think you'll see more in the next one how that could be different than just on the x-axis like this one is. Then I want to go 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That one is also on the x-axis. So I'm going to connect those two dots and I'm going to find the slope of those two dots. So rate of change, that is your slope. Well, this is a horizontal piece, and remember we talked about the horizontal, the slope of a horizontal line is 0. So that's just going to be 0. Normally, you are going to count your rise over run. This one has no rise, but it has an infinite run. So that's how we are going to end up with a slope of 0. So if we look down here at number 2, I'm going to skip a little bit, and I'm actually going to go down and do rate of change first, because that's what we just talked about. So rate of change, I'm going to go to -3, 1, 2, 3. Well, that one is right on the x-axis. Now I'm going to go to 4, because remember, again, this is my x1, x2. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that one ends up being on the x-axis as well. So that one, again, is going to be a slope of 0. I might jump, once we do the rest of the parts here, I'm going to jump to one that does not have a slope of 0 so that you can see what that looks like. Okay, so we have increasing. Increasing is where we have a positive slope. So in looking at my graph, anytime your graph is going up, you have a positive slope. So we have a positive slope here and a positive slope here. So I want to look at x values. Well, this x value is 1, 2, 3, 4, so -4. This x value up here is 1, 2. That's going to be -2. So I'm increasing from -4 to -2. And I'm also increasing from here to here. So this would be an x value of -1 to 1, 2. Decreasing, where we have a negative slope. So it's going to be this piece and this piece. Well, I already said this x value was -2 and this x value is -1, so it's decreasing from -2 to -1. And it's decreasing from this x value, which I already said was 2, to this x value, which is 4. And notice, I do cover the whole span from -4 to 4, -4 to -2, -2 to -1, -1 to 2, and then 2 to 4. Positive is where your graph is above the x-axis. So this entire section here is above the x-axis. You may need to split this up because at this x value of -1, it's not technically above the x-axis, so we could split this up. We're starting at this x value, 1, 2, -3, and I'm going to do a break there. So I'm positive from -3 to -1, and I'm also positive from -1 all the way over here to 4. Now, if you didn't want to write it this way, if you wanted to do just -3 to 4, I would accept that for our class. But just be aware, at -1 is on the y-axis or on the x-axis, so it's 0, and 0 isn't technically a positive number. So you should split that one up. Negative is where we're below the x-axis, so that's going to be this piece here. So that's -4 to -3. Okay. Now let's try to find one. I do want to go back to that rate of change so you can see one that is not 0, because I know we've struggled in the past with looking at rate of change for graphs. And I think that one's not going to work. Let's try this one. This one could work. I know this one doesn't, this one is curved instead of having those straight line segments, but it's still going to work out the same way. So if we're doing this part, remember this is my x1, this is my x2. 1, 2, 3. -3 is down here. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is up here. I know it's an open dot, but we are counting our rise and our run to go from one dot to the other. So I'm going to rise 1, and I'm running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my slope is rise over run, which means my rate of change is 1 over 7. So that's how you would do rate of change if you have something that's not 0. They won't always be 0. This is an example of one that is not. So really you're finding the slope of that line that connects them. So hopefully this will help you complete the worksheet. Please go back and rewatch any parts of this video or the previous video that don't make sense, especially if you're running into any difficulty answering any of the specific questions. And if you still are not sure of how to answer some of the parts, please contact me so I can help you.